Welcome everybody to the Verdant Growth Daily, where we give you the news, tips, and tools you need to live eco, that is, environmentally conscious. My goal is to help put you in the right mindset to live more in line with your own values and to change your life, to make it more fulfilling, sustainable, and balanced with nature, all in just 10 unedited minutes a day. My name's Eugene, and this is episode 17. Today, we are going to be talking about a little bit more about kind of what I talked about before about the phrase live eco. If you guys caught a previous episode that I did about live eco, you learned that my definition of eco, which is different from everybody else's term eco, the term that I use is environmentally conscious, hence the pronunciation eco versus eco. It just means that before you can learn to live your life more environmentally friendly, you need to become aware of the connections that you have to the environment. Because you are always connected to nature. You're connected to nature all the time, every single time you get into your car. You're connected to nature every time you turn on a light. You are connected every time you take a breath of air. You are always connected to nature. It is not just something that you go visit on the weekends and then you enjoy a walk on the beach, or you go for a hike, or you go camping in the summer. Nature is not something that you just go to visit sometimes. You are always connected to nature, and becoming aware of that connection is the first step in learning how to change your life to be more sustainable. So, for me, that means that in my house, I'm aware now that every single time I turn on a light, it's not just like, oh, hey, the light goes on, it's magic. No, I turn on the light, and I'm aware that when I do this, somewhere out there, there's a generator that is burning just a tiny bit more coal to power my light bulb, right? Somebody out there is responding to my need for energy, and they're having to ramp up power. So for every minute that my light is on, I'm spewing CO2 out into the atmosphere, unless you're on total renewable energy, which, maybe some of you are, in which case, yeah, great. But I'm also aware that there is every time I use a plastic bag from the supermarket, every time I get a plastic bag, there were CO2 emissions involved in creating that plastic bag. I'm going to take it, I'm going to bring it home, I'm going to take everything out of it, and I'm going to throw it in the garbage. And what happens to it? It now goes into the environment for the next 100 years for somebody else to have to deal with. Yeah, it's out of my life. Woo! I feel good. But now that bag, which served me for 15 minutes on my drive home, is now being thrown out into nature, where maybe it's going to get eaten by a turtle. Maybe it'll just sit in a landfill for the next 100 years. I don't know, but it's unnecessary. There was no need for that plastic bag. There was no need for that environmental impact. I have tons of reusable bags in my house. I'm aware of every time that I eat steak, every time that I eat meat, I am aware of the fact that eating that meat is increasing demand for more cows, and that means maybe more cutting down rainforest. Maybe that means a lot more methane emissions from the cows, which methane on some time scales is 86 times more potent than CO2 for affecting the climate. So every time I eat steak, there is that effect also. So just being aware of all of these different places that you are constantly connected to nature is the first step to living more in line with your own values, assuming that one of your values is that nature is a good thing. And I would like to believe that that is a value that every single person on this planet shares. Maybe I'm really naive in that, but I think that every person on the planet loves some part of nature, whether it's mountains, or remembering going camping as a kid, or, going snorkeling in Hawaii or something. Everybody loves some aspect of nature. So I think that deep down, everybody has a value of wanting to protect nature somewhere. So, what should you do next? Now, you say, I'm very environmentally conscious now. I am eco as I can be. I'm noticing every single little thing that I do to the environment. What do I do next? This is usually the point that I say, well, if nothing comes to you right away, if it's not something that's obvious, like, I don't know, not using single-use plastic forks or spoons, that can be a very obvious one, but in some cases it's not so obvious. And in those cases, that is the point that I would usually refer you to Google and say, Google it. What are 10 ways that I can reduce my CO2 impact on the environment? What are 10 ways that I can reduce plastic waste in my house, right? And this is the time that you can make use of those resources. I think too often people look at those kinds of lists and things and they see them as being like preachy and like, oh God, here's people trying to tell me what to do in environment again. Here's people telling me that I'm awful for the environment. But I think that you first have to recognize your own connection to the environment before you go out and seek that kind of information. Once you are aware of those connections, then you want that information. In my case, I learned to love doing these things for the environment. It doesn't feel like it's a burden or a sacrifice to me because I like nature. And when I realize that, doing this has this negative impact on the environment, it feels good when I find a way to stop doing that thing. It feels amazing that maybe now my showers are less bad for the environment. Or maybe when I go for a walk now, there's less garbage entering the ocean because of the trash that I pick up. All of those changes that I make to my life all feel really, really good. And so for me, when I look at those lists of like 10 things you can do for the environment, I'm always like, cool, these are ways for me to feel better about my own life, not to make me feel worse. It's not to make me feel guilty. These are things that I can do that will actually make my life more fulfilling and more joyful. Being aware of all of these connections that you have into the environment are opportunities to grow. They're opportunities to become a better person. It's not just true for environment. Awareness is always the first step in improving in anything. If you want to learn how to play the piano and you just play the same song over and over and over again the exact same way, you're never going to get better at piano. You have to develop the awareness to be able to look at your own playing and say, there's a weird thing that happens in this part where the rhythm gets all screwy and I don't like that part. And then there's this part over here when I play it with my left hand that like my hand kind of hurts. There's something weird going on with the way that I'm holding my left hand. There are different things that you have to notice in order to get past those points. To be able to evolve and to grow past those points, you first have to become aware that those problems exist. So this is not something that I recommend doing just to make your life more sustainable or better for the environment. But becoming aware of everything in your life is the way that you progress in your job, in your personal life, in your marriage, in your relationship with your kids, with your friends, everybody, everything. Awareness will lead you to grow. So I think that in order to get to that point and to help people encourage that more, I think that I'm going to start taking some time sometimes on this daily to start talking about stories from my own life. Stories that I have and the experiences that I have and the feelings that I go through so that you guys can hear what my thought process is. How did it feel to go from I don't know, driving my car all the time to then starting to take walks, to instead using my walks with my dog to go to the supermarket. Hearing how those things feel and the process that I went through, and that it wasn't just a magical snap your fingers and all of a sudden my life was environmentally friendly. In most of the cases, it was a little bit of a struggle at the start. And in all of the cases, after I did it, I felt better. I didn't feel like, oh God, this is such an annoying thing that I have to deal with to just do this just to make my life better for nature. All of them have made my life feel better and have become things that I want to continue doing because my life just feels better. My connection to the environment is better. My connection to my dog is better. My connection to my wife and my daughter is better. I connect with everything better when I'm more aware and constantly looking for ways to grow. So I think that's going to be a big thing for me as we go on. So look forward to hearing some of my own personal stories. I mean, I guess I could even give a quick example now. I mean, one example for me is plastic and plastic waste. This is one that I've been going through recently, quite a bit. Recently, I watched the documentary A Plastic Ocean, and I talked about that on this daily before. And just seeing the waves of plastic washing up onto the beach in Thailand, or these islands that are disappearing under just garbage, that like tons and tons of garbage that they just don't have the resources to deal with. It has created, just seeing all of that, and with my own eyes too. There have been times when I've gone to the beach and I've just seen so much plastic garbage all over the beach. I notice those things, and I used to just be like everyone else. I used to just walk right by them without thinking about them at all. But now I look at it and I go, God, it feels gross. This is not okay. It feels gross, and that garbage is partially my fault. I am partially to blame for the plastic garbage that's all over the environment. Yes, it's like 0.000000001% of that garbage, but sure, some of the garbage that ends up in the ocean, on the streets, it's going to be my garbage. Some of it anyway. So now, every time I go to the grocery store, every time I walk down the street and pass a piece of plastic garbage, I can remember that feeling of just being like, this is gross, this is wrong, this is not okay. And I pick up that garbage now. I pick up that garbage because that feeling of just like, I don't like the way my life has been up to this point. I don't like that I have been contributing to this garbage just as much as everyone else. I want to be better than this. I pick up that garbage. When I go to the supermarket and I see every single like individually wrapped cucumbers with plastic wrap around them, or every single piece of lettuce or potatoes or whatever it is, like wrapped in plastic, that feeling comes back to me and it's like, ugh, gross. And I haven't rid plastic from my life yet. I still use a lot of plastic products in my life. But I'm in the process now of making that realization. I've made the connection. I've become aware, and now I've made the connection of my actions to that feeling of ugh. And now when I go sometimes to the supermarket and I say, which lettuce do I want to buy? Am I going to buy that one that's wrapped in plastic, or am I going to buy the one not wrapped in plastic? It's a no-brainer. I don't feel like, I have to protect the environment. Well, let's go for the one without the plastic because that's the one that National Geographic told me is the better choice for the environment. No, I take that one because my life feels better when I take those ones. When I take the one not wrapped in plastic, I feel like my life has just aligned a little bit more with my own values. So this is something that's always evolving. Nobody is sustainable in their natural state. Everybody has to work to get there. Everyone has to grow to get there. But that starts with awareness and becoming conscious of the things that, or the connections that we have to nature. Once you're aware, you can grow. The more aware you are, the more potential you have to grow. I hope you guys can get something useful out of that, and I hope you guys start making those connections in your life, becoming a little bit more aware of how you're connected to nature, and then thinking past that. If you're at that step where you're making those connections already, start to make that next step into starting to look into, how can I change? What kind of changes can I make so that, not so that the environment is better, but that so I feel better about my own life and about how I live my life and how I relate to the people around me, to the environment around me, to the animals around me. It's all really, really, really helpful. So thank you guys so much for tuning in and listening today. I know that I only had a few people live today. Hello to Grant Dew, who is in the chat and just said hi to me. I really, really appreciate you, sir, tuning in. I really, really appreciate it. And I'd really appreciate it if you hit that subscribe button and the like button if you're on YouTube, because that would really, really help me. If you want to know when I'm going live, then be sure to hit that notification bell on YouTube, and then also follow me on Twitter, because that is the place that I announce every time I'm going to go live. And then if you're interested in learning some more, hearing some more tips about things that you can do to make your life better for the environment, if you're at that stage, then check out my blog too at verdantgrowth.blog. And there I have a few articles on things that you can do to make your life a little bit more environmentally friendly. But again, go there after you've made the connections. First, we become aware of our connection to the environment, and then we make the changes. Thanks again so much to everybody who tuned in today. Find me on social media in all the places down below in the description box or on the screen. And I hope you guys all go out there and make those environmentally conscious connections, and then maybe a little change in your life to make your life better. I promise your life will feel so much better when you do. Thanks for watching, guys. Eugene and Verdant Growth out.